Damning report is released by the Department of Justice about the Baltimore City Police Department. The federal probe started following the death of Freddie Gray in April of last year. It sharply criticizes officers for using excessive force and discriminating against African Americans. WJZ is live with complete coverage. Ava-joye Burnett with how city leaders and community members are responding to the report. But first, Ritter is live outside City Police headquarters with the troubling findings and recommendations moving forward. Rick?
Denise, the Department of Justice unloaded on Baltimore City Police with its 14-month investigation, accusing officers of often targeting African Americans, a time of crisis for the department that the commissioner says now brings opportunity.
Citizens can't be expected to respect an agency if the trust of that agency is breached.
Trust that's been shattered between Baltimore's police department and its communities after a scathing report from the Department of Justice. 164 pages highlight racism, lack of accountability, and abuses of police power, saying Baltimore City's officers routinely make stops, searches, and arrests without the required justification.
Using enforcement strategies that produce severe and unjustified disparities in the rates of stops, searches, and arrests of African Americans. Federal
investigators found officers retaliated against people for freedom of speech, and some supervisors instructed officers to target African Americans. Of 300,000 pedestrian stops in a 5-year stretch, the report shows nearly half were made in 2 small, predominantly African American neighborhoods. In one traffic stop, a woman was strip and cavity searched on the street. But after the search found no evidence of wrongdoing, she was released with a repair order for her headlight.
And some of the more egregious acts described in the report, action has been taken and those police officers have been removed.
Federal investigators say it was the unnecessary stops that sometimes led to violent confrontations.
Officers frequently resorted to physical force when a person did not immediately respond to verbal commands.
Justice officials also found one officer who faced more than 100 complaints, but was slapped on the wrist for a minor violation. In short, troubled officers routinely got away with abuse.
It's not going to be easy to reform the department, and it's not going to be quick.
The DOJ says it now has the framework for an agreement with the city that will head to federal court. But change won't happen overnight. And public safety experts I spoke with tonight say changes like this within a department can take up to 5 years, sometimes even longer. Vic?
Rick, thank you. WJZ Live complete coverage continues now with Ava-joye Burnett. She speaks with city leaders and community members, some of whom say they aren't surprised by what the report reveals.
Vic, good evening. Congressman Elijah Cummings says he is saddened by how deep these issues go. It's a type of abuse by police that people say they've been complaining about for decades. The DOJ report may have come as a surprise to some, but not for those living on edge every day.
This is a matter of trust. A lot of people have been complaining about our police department, and there were segments of our community that acted as if these things were not happening.
Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake asked the Department of Justice to step in and investigate after the city went into a tailspin following Freddie Gray's death.
We asked for it. We said we were going to cooperate with it, and I think it is a major, crucial step in bringing us together as a community.
The community is reacting after the Department of Justice released the scathing report, but many people are saying they're not surprised at the findings.
It's really a systemic problem.
Hassan Giordano, a community activist, says some neighborhoods have been targeted for decades.
It's probably eye-opening for people who don't live in the communities that's being affected by it, but not surprised at all in terms of the gravity of the situation. I mean, people in these communities, largely African-American communities around the city of Baltimore, have been accustomed to this type of treatment for decades.
Giordano also hopes this report will get the ball rolling toward meaningful change, a sentiment echoed by Erica Alston, who started an after-school program in Freddie Gray's neighborhood.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think this is the first step, acknowledging that we have a problem. But true recovery and true reform is the steps that are needed to change.
The congressman and community leaders wanted to reiterate that there are plenty of good cops, but there are also a few bad apples. Reporting live tonight, Ava-joye Burnett, WJZ Eyewitness News.
Ava-joye, thank you. There is an agreement in principle between the Department of Justice and Baltimore City. It outlines the problem areas, but there is no timetable on when the reforms will happen.